The day before the college entrance exam. The class beauty invited everyone to taste red wine for free. I tried my best to dissuade them, but the whole class mocked me for meddling in others' affairs. And in the end, I was utterly disgraced. Opening my eyes again, I was back at the moment she stood on the podium and announced the news. This time, I nodded with a smile and quietly turned on the voice recorder on my phone. After all, what a hunter needs to do is simply watch the prey walk into the trap on its own. Later, the class beauty broke down during a live stream, screaming at the camera surgingly, "You all ready?" And in my phone, a recording she never imagined existed was playing. 1. Classmates, I have some incredibly good news. Liang Manyu's sweet voice came from the podium, the rich aroma of red wine still lingering in my nostrils, the excruciating pain of shattered bones from the fall still echoing within me. I abruptly opened my eyes, the glaring sunlight in the classroom making me instinctively raise a hand to shield them. Only at the very end did I clearly see the scene before my eyes. Liang Manyu specially curled her hair today and wore a light blue dress, looking like a fresh little daisy. Our of light red hotel announces that any college entrance exam candidate can enjoy premium red wine for free the day before the exam with their admission ticket. My heart suddenly tightened, and my fingers unconsciously dug into my palm. This scene, this conversation exactly the same as the day in my memory. I heard those red wines usually cost over 1,000 yuan per bottle. Students like us can't afford them at all. Liang Manyu's eyes sparkled, her hands clasped together. It's a rare opportunity. Let's all go together after school. Great. Zhou Huaiming was the first to jump up and cheer. I looked at his familiar profile, and my stomach twisted in pain. In my previous life, it was this very hand that ultimately pushed me off the building. The entire class erupted, their cheers nearly lifting the roof. I sat in my seat, my ears ringing, not from the noise, but from the clear realization I had been reborn. Returned to this decisive moment, 2 memories from a past life flooded back like a tide. That day, as class monitor, I stepped forward to stop this absurd proposal. The college entrance exam is tomorrow. Drinking will ruin everything. None of us have ever drunk alcohol. What if we get drunk and our performance suffers? Liang Minyu immediately mocked me as a country bumpkin and asked those who had drunk alcohol to raise their hands. Nearly half the class raised their hands, and Zhou Huaiming angrily confronted me. "Sure, Jean Li, do you have to oppose Minyu every time?" The classmates chimed in, accusing me of jealousy toward the class beauty, and listing various examples of how I had targeted her. I stood by my principles and reported the incident to the homeroom teacher, resulting in the event being cancelled as a result. Liang Minyu live streamed herself cutting her wrists on the day of the college entrance exam, accusing me of long-term bullying that led to her depression. Although she didn't die, she missed the exam. I was doxxed across the entire internet, isolated and insulted by my classmates. And in the end, Zhou Huaiming and several classmates pushed me off the roof of the teaching building. "Jean Li, what do you think?" Liang Minyu's voice pulled me back to reality. She tilted her head to look at me, her eyes flickering with hypocritical concern. "You're the class monitor. We'll all listen to you." The whole class fell silent, all eyes fixed on me. I noticed Zhou Huaiming's hand resting on the back of Liang Minyu's chair, the suspiciously close distance between them. How did I not notice in my past life that they had already been secretly involved? I took a deep breath and put on a hesitant expression. This isn't really appropriate, is it? After all, it's the day before the college entrance exam. "Sure, Jean Li." Zhou Huaiming indeed slammed the table and stood up, just as he had in my past life. "Can't you stop being such a killjoy? I'm just worried it might affect the exam." I pretended to be timid, lowering my head and secretly pressing the phone's recording button under the table. Liang Manyu's eyes immediately turned red. "Jean Li, do you hate me? Every time I suggest something, you always oppose it." Several boys immediately cast condemning glances. In my previous life, I would have argued my case firmly, but now, looking at Liang Manyu's masterful acting, I suddenly wanted to play along with her. 3. I'm the class monitor. It's my responsibility to remind everyone of the risks. I bit my lip, playing the role of someone torn. If everyone insists, Should I go ask Teacher Liu? No way! Wang Mingho, the sports committee member, immediately objected. Monitor, can't you just make an exception this one time? Yeah, always using the teacher to pressure us. Sycophant, someone muttered quietly. I watched Liang Manyu's fleeting triumphant smile at the corner of her mouth, and I sneered inwardly. In my previous life, I was too straightforward. This time, I'll fight back using her own methods. Then, okay, I pretended to be reluctantly convinced. But everyone must keep it moderate. Can't affect tomorrow's exam. The whole class cheered again, and Liang Manyu affectionately looped her arm through mine. Jeanli, you're the best. The scent of her perfume made me nauseous. After school, the students excitedly flocked to Little Moments. Zhou Haiming walked up to me, his tone stiff. You have to come, too. Don't even think about sneaking off to tattle. Of course, I'll go. I smiled, watching the look he exchanged with Liang Manyu. A plan already forming in my mind. This time, I won't play the righteous fool again. Since fate has given me a second chance, I'll make those who push me into hell taste the bitter wine they brewed with their own mouths. The interior of the Hour of Light Red Hotel was even more luxurious than I had imagined. The light from the crystal chandeliers danced on the dark wooden wine cabinets, while the air was filled with the rich aroma of oak barrels and fermenting grapes. The classmates, like children who had stumbled into an adult world, were both excited and reserved. Welcome! A waiter in a vest smiled as he approached. You must be Miss Liang's classmates. Please show me your admission tickets. Liang Manyu stood at the entrance like the hostess, warmly linking arms with the waiter. This is my uncle's shop. Everyone, make yourselves at home. All expenses are on the house today. I raised an eyebrow. In my past life, I never came here, so I naturally didn't know about this connection. My phone kept recording in my pocket. I pretended to look around curiously, but in reality, I was searching for more evidence for any bottle of wine here could easily cover our living expenses for a month. Zhou Huaiming whistled exaggeratedly, drawing a round of laughter. Tonight, we drink until we drop. Wang Mingho, the sports committee member, couldn't wait to grab a glass of red wine. Liang Manyu walked over to me, holding a wine glass. Jeanli, try this one. It's only 5% alcohol. Almost like juice. She smiled sweetly, but her eyes held a hint of challenge. I took the wine glass and pretended to take a sip. It's really good. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her turn and give Zhou Huaiming a meaningful look. As the night deepened, the classmates gradually let loose. Liang Manyu, like a professional sommelier, kept recommending various low-alcohol red wines and cocktails. I noticed she drank very little herself, but frequently poured drinks for several classmates who usually performed well academically. Manyu, I'm feeling a bit dizzy. Chen Fangcheng, the class monitor, rubbed her temples. It's okay. This is a normal reaction, Liang Manyu said warmly, putting her arm around her shoulder. I've prepared some sobering tea. Just drink a little later. Come on, try this rose again. It looks amazing in photos. I quietly approached Liang Manyu and Zhou Huaiming, who were taking selfies. Got enough footage? Zhou Huaiming whispered. Just a little longer. Wait until they're even more drunk. Liang Manyu adjusted her phone angle. The live stream clips tonight will definitely go viral. Top students get drunk together before the Gaokao. I've already thought of the headline. Are you sure this will help you gain followers? Of course. The element of contrast is the key to going viral. Liang Manyu shook her phone proudly. When they perform poorly on the exam tomorrow, I'll post a follow-up saying, I feel so sorry for my classmates. My follower count will at least double. A sharp pain twisted in my stomach. In my past life, I only knew she had framed me, but I never realized it was all part of a carefully planned game for online popularity. My phone suddenly vibrated in my pocket, and I quickly retreated to a corner. Caller ID shows Lin Jinchen, the transfer student from my past life, who was the only one to speak up for me. Hello, Lin Jinchen. Are you at Little Time? Lin Jinchen's voice was unusually serious. How did you know? I heard from a classmate. Listen, Liang Manyu isn't simple. She's live streaming the scene of your class drinking, and it's already trending. I gripped my phone tighter. I know. You know. Then why are you still Lin Jinshin? I cut him off. Can we meet before tomorrow's exam? I need to tell you something. There was a brief silence on the other end of the phone. All right. See you at the school gate at 7:05. Hanging up the phone, I saw Yang Menu holding up her phone, capturing the drunken antics of our classmates in a panoramic shot. Her carefully chosen angles made everyone appear completely drunk, while in reality most were only slightly tipsy. Everyone, look! This is our class's way of relaxing before the exam. Liang Menu giggled into her phone. If we get over 10,000 likes, I'll unlock even more exciting content. I pretended to be drunk and slumped over the table, but in reality, I kept recording everything as Liang Menu approached. I deliberately slurred my words and asked, Menu, aren't you afraid of tomorrow's exam? She crouched down and whispered in a voice only I could hear. Silly Jeanly, do you think everyone treats the college entrance exam as life or death like you all do? She shook her phone. This is my life's answer. The waiter began serving the so-called sobering tea, recalling Liang Manju's character. I became more alert, pretending to drink it while actually pouring it onto a water-absorbent cloth prepared in my sleeve. As we left, Liang Manju insisted on taking a group photo together. I stood at the edge watching her fake smile on the camera and the constantly rising like count on her phone screen. When I got home, I immediately checked the recording. Besides Liang Manju's live stream plan, there was also a conversation between her and Zhou Huaiming. That transfer student Lin Jingchen seems to have noticed something. Zhou Huaiming's voice said, What's there to fear? He's just an outsider. What trouble can he possibly stir up? Liang Manju dismissed it casually. But sure Jeanly, she was unusually quiet today. Unlike her. Are you worried she'll go and tell on you? She wouldn't dare. Liang Manju sneered. I have a big show waiting for her after the exam tomorrow. I stopped the recording and set passwords for both my phone and the backup hard drive. In my past life, I lost because I was too upright. This time, I'm going to defeat Liang Manju using her own methods. Before bed, my homeroom teacher, Teacher Liu, called. Jeanly, I heard your class went drinking today. I paused for 2 seconds. Teacher, I just didn't want to be isolated anymore. Teacher Liu sighed. Be careful, and don't be late for the exam tomorrow. After hanging up, I gazed out the window at the dark night sky. Tomorrow, the storm truly begins. 6. When the alarm rang, my head throbbed with pain. The sobering tea from last night was indeed problematic. Fortunately, I didn't drink it. In the mirror, dark circles hung under my eyes. I applied an ice towel for 10 minutes before the swelling finally subsided at the school gate. Lin Jingchen was already waiting under the plane tree. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting dappled shadows on his face, accentuating his features. In my previous life, I didn't remember him very well, only recalling that he had said, Things aren't that simple. When I was being cyberbullied, You look terrible, he said, handing me a cup of coffee. Thanks. I took the coffee and got straight to the point. Liang Manyu live-streamed our class drinking last night, and now the video has spread. Lin Jingchen frowned. What exactly does she want to do? Traffic. I sneered. Step 1. Build a rebellious top student persona to attract fans. Step 2. After everyone performs poorly in the exams, she'll play the role of the kind-hearted class beauty who cares about her classmates, reaping a second wave of popularity. Lin Jingchen's eyes sharpened. How do you know her plan? I took a deep breath. What if I told you I can foresee the future? Would you believe me? Be more specific. I briefly recounted my past life experience, omitting the part about rebirth, and only mentioned that I had accidentally overheard Liang Manyu's plan. After hearing it, Lin Jingchen's expression turned serious. We need evidence. I have a recording. I patted my backpack. But it's not the right time to make it public yet. Outside the examination hall, students arrived one after another, all looking pale. Liang Manyu, however, was full of energy, holding up her phone for a selfie. Good luck with the college entrance exam. Even though we all had too much fun last night, it's all your fault. Qin Fanqing said, her eyes red with tears. My head feels like it's going to explode. How can I take the exam like this? Oh, I was just joking. Who knew you all would really drink so much? Liang Manyu pouted in grievance. Wasn't I just trying to help everyone relax? Zhou Weiming walked over, his gaze shifting between me and Lin Jingchen. Su Gen Li, you seem to be in high spirits. I have a good tolerance for alcohol, I replied calmly. The exam bell rang, and I noticed that nearly half of my classmates were clearly off their game. Liang Manyu, sitting in the front row, took advantage of the invigilator's inattention and whispered something into her sleeve. She was actually wearing a miniature microphone. 7. The 2-day exam felt like a nightmare. In the math exam hall, Wang Mingho simply laid his head on the desk and fell asleep during the English listening test. Chen Fangqing vomited on the answer sheet. Meanwhile, Liang Manyu finished every exam early and went live outside the exam hall, broadcasting the college entrance exam in real time. The last exam ended, and the entire class was lifeless. Liang Manyu, however, excitedly announced, I've reached 100,000 followers. Thank you all for your cooperation. Cooperation? Zhao Huaming suddenly raised his voice. Manyu, we're in such a bad state. What are you so happy about? Liang Manyu immediately put on expression. I just wanted to distract everyone. Seeing you all so upset, I feel really bad. Too. Her eyes reddened instantly. How about I treat everyone to a meal to make up for it? The classmates were half believing, half doubtful, but soon fell for her sweet words again. I watched the performance coldly, and before I knew it, Lin Jingchen had stood beside me. She's even worse than you described, he murmured. This is just the beginning. I opened my phone and saw Liang Manyu's newly posted video. End of the college entrance exam, revealing the crazy night of the top students class. It had already received over 10,000 likes. On the day the results were announced, the whole class was in an uproar. Students who usually performed at an average level failed to make the cut, and even a few top students only managed to get into second-tier universities. Only Liang Manyu, who performed exceptionally well, was admitted to a top-tier university. The class group chat exploded with messages. Wang Mingho, Liang Meiyu, did you do it on purpose? Was there something wrong with the wine that night? Chen Fanqing, I'm 100 points lower than usual. How could this be a coincidence? Zhao Huiming at Su Jinli, as class monitor, why didn't you stop us? Messages in the class group flooded in like a downpour, each one filled with anger and despair. I stared at my phone screen, my finger hovering over the send button for a moment before finally pressing it. Su Jinli, audio file. Su Jinli, video file. Su Jinli, everyone, listen to this first, then decide who to blame. The group fell silent instantly. I knew they were opening those files. A recording of Liang Meiyu saying, wait until they're a little more drunk at the winery. A video of her discussing a live streaming follower growth plan with Zhao Huiming, and a close-up of her eerie smile as she poured decanting tea for her classmates. 3 minutes later, the first reply popped up. Wang Mingho, Liang Meiyu, what the hell do you mean? Then came Chen Fanqing. So, you deliberately got us drunk all for your stupid live stream. Messages flooded in, all directed at Liang Meiyu with accusations. I leaned back in my chair, watching the storm I had ignited sweep through the entire class group chat. The phone kept vibrating, but I no longer needed to say anything. The evidence was enough for everyone to see the truth. 8. Just when I thought victory was within my grasp, Liang Meiyu suddenly sent a voice message. I tapped to play it, and her tearful voice came through the speaker. Classmates, I admit I wanted to post videos to attract attention, but I truly didn't know it would affect everyone's college entrance exams. Her voice choked up perfectly. All the alcohol was from legitimate sources, and the hangover tea was provided by the shop. I just wanted to document our youth. I sneered coldly, about to retort, when her next voice message followed immediately. But Su Jinli, you clearly knew something might go wrong, yet you recorded so many audio clips and videos. Were you just waiting for this moment to smear my reputation? This sentence was like a bomb, plunging the group into silence once again. My heart suddenly raced. She was shifting the focus. Zhou Huiming immediately followed up. Yeah, Su Jinli, why did you secretly record it? Who in their right mind would do something like that? Li Mengying, The more I think about it, the more terrifying it gets. Could it be that the class monitor had planned all along to frame Mengyu? The situation began to reverse. I clenched my phone, watching as messages questioning me kept popping up one after another. Liang Mengyu's tearful complaints and Zhou Huaiming's support worked together seamlessly, once again stirring up the emotions of the classmates. Qin Fangcheng. Wait. Su Xinli, can you explain why you recorded it? I took a deep breath and rapidly tapped the keys on the keyboard. Su Xinli, because I am the class monitor. After sending those 6 words, I immediately uploaded another recording. That in the classroom, I advised everyone not to drink. In the recording, my voice was filled with concern. The college entrance exam is tomorrow, and drinking could ruin everything. None of us have ever drunk before. What if we get drunk, and it affects our performance? Then came Liang Mengyu's mocking laughter, and Zhou Huaiming's angry shout. Su Xinli, do you have to oppose Mengyu every time? The recording continued with the students, heckling, clearly audible. Class monitor, can't you make an exception just once? Always using the teacher to pressure us. Sycophant. Finally, my compromise. Well, all right, but everyone must be moderate and not affect tomorrow's exam. The recording ended. The group chat fell silent once again. I continued typing. I recorded the meeting, because after every class activity, some students would later complain or deny having said certain things. As class president, I need to document the process of important decisions. This is a method suggested by Teacher Liu. It was the perfect excuse. Half true, half imagined, impossible to refute. Teacher Liu had indeed suggested that class officers keep records, but no one had ever followed it as strictly as I did. Lin Jingchen, I can confirm. Before the last spring outing, Su Jinli also recorded the class meeting. Lin Jingchen's support came at just the right moment. I glanced at my phone gratefully, and then delivered the final blow. Su Xinli, video file 9. This is a clip from the winery where I was encouraging everyone to drink. In the video, I walk up to each classmate and quietly remind them, drink less. There's an exam tomorrow. This wine is strong. Do you want to eat something first? And every time I tried to persuade, Liang Mingyu would immediately appear saying in an even sweeter voice, don't listen to the class monitor. Today is all about having fun. This wine has super low alcohol content. Just like juice. Drink this to sober up. It's especially effective. The video ends with a still image of Liang Mingyu holding up her phone. Live streaming. She excitedly says to the camera, if we get over 10,000 likes, we'll unlock even more exciting content. The chain of evidence is complete. Wang Mingho. Liang Mingyu. What else do you have to say? Qin Fangcheng. So the person who truly harmed us is the mood in the group chat shifted again. This time even more violently. Liang Mingyu's false mask was stripped away layer by layer, and the classmates finally saw who the real victim was. My phone suddenly vibrated, and a private message popped up. Lin Jingchen. Be careful. They won't give up so easily. I replied, I know. This is just the beginning. Outside the window, the summer sun still shone brightly, while the gloom in my heart finally began to lift a little. The taste of revenge was more complicated than I had imagined. There was no joy, only a cold sense of satisfaction. Liang Mingyu, the pain you've inflicted upon me, I will return to you bit by bit. The next morning, my phone woke me up with a barrage of message alerts. There were over 99 unread messages in the class group. At the top was a link to the school forum with a headline that boldly read, Cunning female class president sets a trap to frame classmate. Full analysis of the recording scandal. I sat up abruptly and opened the link. The post was written in the voice of Liang Mingyu, accompanied by photos showing her red, swollen eyes, and haggard appearance. The article detailed how a meticulous class monitor had carefully plotted to frame the innocent and kind-hearted class beauty, while my act of secretly recording the conversation was portrayed as a deliberate conspiracy. Most devastatingly, Zhou Huaiming appeared in the comments section to testify. I'm her ex-boyfriend. Su Jinli has always been jealous of Mengyu. This time it was clearly a setup. She's always been fond of recording others' missteps. Her psychology is twisted. My hands began to tremble. Not from fear, but from anger. They had turned the tables, twisting my self-defense into a calculated frame-up. What's worse, this post has already gone viral on campus with the comment section filled with criticism. She always acts so proper. But turns out she's this vicious. I heard she forced a classmate to transfer schools last year. So, failing the college entrance exam was because of the class monitor. I closed the page and forced myself to calm down. This was exactly Liang Meina's specialty in her previous life. When facts worked against her, she would launch a public opinion war using tears and lies to turn the situation around. Then, my phone vibrated again. It was Lin Jinshin. Have you seen the forum? Need help? I replied, yes. Help me find evidence of the relationship between Zhao Huaiming and Liang Meinu. Putting down my phone, I began to organize my counterattack plan. In my previous life, I lost because I was unprepared. This time, I will use their own weapons to defeat them. 2 hours later, I stood in the office of our homeroom teacher, Ms. Liu, and placed a USB drive on the desk. Teacher, this contains all the evidence, I said calmly, including the recording of Liang Manu planning the live stream, her actions at the wine estate, and the video she posted after the college entrance exams. Teacher Liu frowned deeply. Jinli, this matter has become quite serious. Even the principal knows about it. I know. I lowered my head, my voice choked with emotion. I just don't want to be wronged again. This was a carefully staged performance. The posture of a victim is the easiest to evoke sympathy. Teacher Liu's expression softened as expected. The school will investigate this thoroughly. You should go back and rest for now. Leaving the office, I ran into Liang Manu and Zhou Huaiming at the corner of the hallway. Her eyes were red and swollen. The moment she saw me, she immediately ducked behind Zhou Huaiming as if she had seen a ghost. Sure, Jinli, are you satisfied now? Zhou Huaiming stood in front of her, his voice filled with hostility. Isn't it enough that you've hurt Manu like this? I stared directly into his eyes. Zhou Huaiming, do you know why Liang Manu only pours you mineral water? He froze. What? In the wine cellar, she poured wine for everyone except you. She gave you mineral water instead. I wore a pitying expression. Did you really think she considered you one of her own? Liang Manu turned pale. You're lying. I let out a cold laugh, pulled out my phone from my bag, and played a new recording. Liang Manu said to the waiter, pour mineral water for my boyfriend. But don't let him know. Zhou Huaiming's expression froze. I seized the moment to escalate. During her live stream, the camera deliberately avoided you. Do you know why? Because you're the scapegoat in her plan. If things go wrong, all the blame will fall on you. It wasn't true, but it was enough to shake their alliance. Zhou Huaiming turned to look at Liang Manu, and for the first time, doubt appeared in her eyes. Brother Ming, she's trying to drive a wedge between us. Liang Manu cried anxiously, tears streaming down her face. How could I ever harm you? I ignored them and turned to leave. The seed has been planted. Let them turn on each other. When I reached the school gate, Lin Jingshan was waiting for me, holding an envelope in his hand. Found it, he whispered. A photo of Zhou Huaiming and Liang Manu being intimate taken last month at a hotel. I took the envelope without opening it. Thank you. But this card can't be played yet. Why not? Because I glanced toward Liang Manu and Zhou Huaiming, who were arguing in the distance. The most painful revenge isn't a fatal blow. It's making them watch helplessly as the things they cherish crumble piece by piece. Lin Jingshan looked at me thoughtfully. Shurong Jinli, you've changed a lot. Yeah, I said softly. People change after they've died once. 11. The post on the campus forum kept gaining traction, and my name became the hot topic of discussion across the entire school. As I walked into the cafeteria, whispers followed me like a shadow, with occasional blatant pointing and staring. Liang Manu's tearful strategy clearly worked. In the court of public opinion, a pitiful, delicate flower is always more convincing than cold, hard evidence. Mind if I sit here? Lin Jingshan stood across from me with his tray, his voice just loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. I shook my head. He sat down calmly, deliberately raising his voice. Don't mind those rumors on the forum. Truth will always come out. Thank you. I murmured, noticing several curious glances directed my way. Lin Jingchen picked up a piece of ribs and placed it in my bowl. Eat more. You've lost weight lately. The affectionate gesture made a few girls nearby widen their eyes. Once the attention had dispersed, he lowered his voice. Zhou Huaiming and Liang Manyu had a huge fight this morning because of the mineral water incident. Not just that, a sharp glint flashed in Lin Jingchen's eyes. I anonymously sent him a photo, an intimate picture of Liang Manyu and the owner of Little Time. My chopsticks paused. Her uncle? He's not her uncle at all. Lin Jingchen sneered. That man is the owner of a small local influencer agency. Liang Manyu has been a signed artist under him for a long time. The Red Wine Estate event was a marketing stunt they planned. A chill surged through my chest. So, she even used Zhou Huaiming. In her eyes, everyone is a pawn. Lin Jingchen's voice suddenly grew unusually heavy. In her past life, that's exactly how she was. I abruptly looked up, my chopsticks clattering loudly as they fell onto the table. Lin Jingchen's gaze sent a shiver through my entire body. It wasn't the look of a bystander, but the pain of someone who had lived through it. My voice caught in my throat. Lin Jingchen stared directly into my eyes. I've come back, too, Jeanli, from that evening when you fell from the building. The noise of the cafeteria seemed to fade away instantly, leaving only the pounding of my own heart in my ears. In my previous life, when I fell from the building, there was indeed a figure lingering beneath the teaching building, watching. Could that have been Lin Jingchen? Why are you only telling me now? My voice trembled. I needed to confirm whether you had truly been reborn, rather than just making a lucky guess about Liang Manyu's plan. Lin Jingchen's fingers tapped lightly on the table, a distress signal we had agreed upon in our previous life. Besides, I have something even more important to tell you. Liang Manyu's actions in her past life didn't just harm you alone. What do you mean? Lin Jingchen's gaze grew profound. In her past life, she ended up in a mental hospital not because of guilt, but because of the third person she killed, her own biological mother. A chill ran down my spine. 12. In my previous life, I only lived until a month after the college entrance exam, so I had no idea what happened afterward. In this life, we must stop her. Lin Jingchen's voice was resolute, not just for revenge, but also for the innocent who might fall victim again. We exchanged a silent glance, a strange understanding flowing between us. The alliance of two reborn individuals was officially formed at this moment. First step, I slowly regained my voice. We need more evidence, not just about her activities at school, but also about her illegal dealings with that influencer company. Lin Jingchen nodded. I've already found some leads. The decanting tea at the winery tested positive for banned substances. This already constitutes a criminal offense. And the college entrance exam cheating. I added. She was wearing a miniature microphone during the exam. Someone must have been feeding her the answers. This is enough to send her to a juvenile detention center. Lin Jingchen sneered. But it's not enough. We need her to walk right into our trap. A plan was taking shape in my mind. Dangerous, but effective. The graduation ceremony. I whispered. That would be her final performance. A week before the graduation ceremony, the campus was filled with the atmosphere of parting. The turmoil on the forum seemed to have subsided, and Liang Manyu regained her glamorous image. But Zhou Huaiming no longer followed her around as closely as before. I sat in the corner of the library, flipping through the materials Lin Jingchen had collected on the copy of Liang Manyu's contract with the influencer agency Qing1 Media. It clearly stated signed artists must cooperate with all promotional activities arranged by the company, including but not limited to creating buzz, hyping up trending topics. This is an illegal contract, Lin Jingchen said, sitting across from me, his voice barely above a whisper. A student's entertainment contract requires parental consent, and she forged her mother's signature. I flipped to the last page, and sure enough, there was a hastily scrawled signature. Does her mother know? Not only does she know, she's against it. Lin Jingchen handed me another document. This is a letter her mother wrote to the school last year demanding that Liang Meiyu be prohibited from participating in commercial activities. But Teacher Liu suppressed it. I frowned. Teacher Liu. He took money. Lin Jingchen's gaze turned icy. Xinhuan Media transfers funds to him every month under the guise of a student development fund. 13 pieces of the puzzle began to fit together in my mind. No wonder Teacher Lu ignored my plea in my previous life. He was also part of the chain of interests. These are enough to get Teacher Lu fired, I said. Not just that. Lin Jingchen swiped his phone and showed me a video. This is a conversation between Liang Meiyu and the company's boss. They plan to create an even bigger story at the graduation ceremony. A public accusation from a victim of campus bullying. In the video, Liang Meiyu, with her makeup perfectly done, clinked glasses with a middle-aged man. I'll suddenly break down during my graduation speech and reveal the truth about Su Jinli's long-term bullying of me. You just need to have the trending topics ready. The man laughed heartily. Don't worry. We've even hired trolls. This time, we'll definitely get you millions of followers. I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms. Their shamelessness was beyond imagination. They actually planned to pull the same trick again at the graduation ceremony. We should act now. Lin Jingchen put away his phone. Tomorrow, I'll anonymously send some of the evidence to Zhou Huaiming so he can see Liang Meiyu's true colors. Will he believe it? He will, Lin Jingchen said with a confident smile. Because I found something he cares about more. During her relationship with him, Liang Meiyu also accepted a car from him. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. You even found that out? In my previous life, I studied computer science. Lin Jingchen said casually. Hacking into her cloud drive wasn't that difficult. The next day, the plan was set in motion. After receiving the anonymous email, Zhou Huaiming indeed intercepted Liang Meiyu after school. From a distance, I watched as his face flushed red while Liang Meiyu went from initial excuses to outright hysteria. Who do you think you are? Her shriek drew glances from passers-by. Without me, you're nothing. Zhou Huaiming angrily threw down a stack of photos and turned to leave. Liang Meiyu crouched on the ground crying, but quickly stood up, wiped her tears, and adjusted her makeup on her phone. This detail chilled me. Even a breakdown was part of the performance. The night before graduation, Lin Jingchen suddenly contacted me. Something's happened. Liang Meiyu moved ahead of schedule. I clicked on the link he sent. It was a post published by a newly created anonymous account. Senior year class president Su Jinglian engages in long-term bullying of classmates, with Liang Meiyu not being the only victim. The post listed over a dozen accusations, each accompanied by fabricated chat records and photos. She hired professional trolls. Lin Jingchen's voice came through the phone. The post made it to the trending list within half an hour. I forced myself to calm down. Stick to the plan. The crazier she gets, the more bugs she'll leave. Hanging up the phone, I opened the drawer and took out a sealed envelope. Inside was my last weapon. The video recorded by another girl before Liang Meiyu forced her to jump from the rooftop. At the time, the girl had been cornered by Liang Meiyu on the rooftop, her phone hidden in her pocket, recording the entire incident. But when I fell, I also lost my phone. And this time when I came back, I happened to find it. In the video, Liang Meiyu's voice was clearly audible. You think you've won? I have someone behind me, and no matter how hard you try, you're nothing. 14. On the day of the graduation ceremony, the sun was shining brightly. The school auditorium was packed with parents holding cameras, eager to capture this important moment in their children's lives. I sat in the graduate seating area feeling various gazes from behind. Curious, disdainful, sympathetic. Liang Meiyu, sitting diagonally behind me, gave me an almost imperceptible nod. Everything was ready. After the principal's speech, Teacher Lu stepped onto the stage. Next, let's invite student representative Liang Meiyu to share her graduation thoughts. Liang Meiyu, dressed in a white dress, looked pure and captivating standing before the microphone. She spoke softly. Today should have been a joyful day, but I must speak the truth. Her performance had begun. Tears came instantly, her voice trembling just right. This past year, I've suffered terribly from bullying, and the perpetrator is sitting among us. The auditorium erupted in murmurs. He said calmly, watching her brilliant performance. When her gaze swept over me, I even gave her a slight smile. I tried to endure, but for the sake of more potential victims, I must speak up today. Liang Manyu's voice suddenly rose surgingly. Why are you doing this to me? All eyes in the room shot toward me like arrows. I slowly stood up, not responding immediately, but walked toward the podium. The principal looked at me in confusion, but when I showed him a video on my phone, his expression changed sharply, and he silently stepped aside. I stood before the microphone, facing the restless crowd. Classmate Liang Manyu has accused me of bullying. I have a right to respond. Liang Manyu clearly hadn't expected me to be allowed on stage. A flicker of panic flashed in her eyes, but she quickly regained her pitiful expression. Are you going to threaten me in front of so many people again? No, I said calmly. I just want to show everyone a video. The large screen in the auditorium lit up, playing surveillance footage of Liang Manyu at the winery. In the video, she was pouring specially mixed red wine into her classmates' glasses while speaking into her phone. Drink more. It'll only be effective if you make a fool of yourself in tomorrow's exam. The entire room erupted in an uproar. Liang Manyu's face turned deathly pale. This is fake. I ignored her and continued playing the next clip, which featured her discussing with the company boss how to use the drunken videos of her classmates for publicity. This is a violation of privacy, Liang Manyu screamed, her earlier fragile image completely gone. There's something even more invasive of privacy, I said coldly, playing the third video, the footage of Liang Manyu accepting a car from her boss and having intimate contact with him inside the vehicle. The auditorium erupted. Parents stood up in anger with someone shouting, "Call the police." Liang Manyu completely broke down. "What do any of you know?" she shrieked hysterically, pointing at me. "Sure, Jeanly, you should have died in your past life. Why did you have to come back and ruin everything for me?" Those words instantly silenced the entire room. I'm shivering all over. Does she remember her past life? Does she know I've been reborn? 15. Lin Jinshin suddenly stood up from his seat. "Liang Manyu, what did you just say about a past life?" Liang Manyu then realized she had let slip her words and shook her head in panic. Because she was also reborn. A voice came from the back of the auditorium. Everyone turned to see Zhao Huaming standing there, his face dark. "She told me herself last night. She said that in her previous life, she became an internet celebrity but ended up going insane. So, in this life, she wants to change the outcome." Liang Manyu, like a cornered beast, suddenly lunged at me. "It's all your fault." Her nails scraped across my cheek, leaving a burning pain. At that moment, the auditorium doors swung open, and several police officers walked in. "Student Liang Manyu, we have received a report. Please assist in the investigation of a case of intentional homicide and illegal poisoning." Liang Manyu froze in place, then erupted into a piercing laugh. "You can't catch me. I have plenty of money and connections." The police officer expressionlessly pulled out a pair of handcuffs. "There is also a case of online fraud and college entrance exam cheating that requires your cooperation in the investigation." As the handcuffs clicked around Liang Manyu's wrists, she finally broke down, crying and screaming as she was escorted out of the auditorium. The entire hall fell into silence, everyone stunned by this dramatic scene. The principal struggled to maintain order and hastily ended the ceremony. Parents murmured among themselves as they left, while the students looked at me with complex expressions. Guilt, awe, and fear all mingled in their eyes. Lin Jingchen walked to my side and gently took my hand. "It's over." "No, not yet." I watched as Liang Mingyu was taken away. "Her mother. The social welfare department has already been contacted," Lin Jingchen said softly. "Her mother will be protected in this lifetime." Zhou Huaiming stood far away, seemingly wanting to approach but not daring to. I nodded to him, and he turned away with a look of relief. The hatred from my past life, when I was pushed off the building, suddenly felt less important at this moment. 3 months later, Liang Mingyu was sentenced to 5 years in prison for charges including intentional homicide, cheating on the college entrance exam, and illegal poisoning. The owner of Qingwan Media and teacher Lu were also sentenced to prison terms. Zhou Huaiming had his university admission revoked for participating in some criminal activities, but he was exempted from criminal punishment in light of his active cooperation with the investigation. "Regret it?" Lin Jingchen suddenly asked. I shook my head. "What about you?" Did you come back just to help me? Lin Jingchen gazed into the distance. In the previous life, when you fell from the building, I was the only witness present. The police didn't believe my testimony. The forces behind Liang Mingyu were too powerful. His voice lowered. I spent 10 years investigating the truth, and finally came back through a car accident. My heart skipped a beat. So you've known me all along. MHM. He turned to look at me, his gaze gentle. I didn't get to know you in my past life, and I don't want to miss you again in this one. The autumn sun shines upon us, warm but not scorching. The hatred and pain from the past finally let go in this moment. Let's go. I took Lin Jingchen's hand on my own initiative. A new life begins. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. At the wedding, my boyfriend's 8-year-old brother secretly set off firecrackers inside my wedding dress. My wedding dress caught fire, leaving me severely burned and disfigured. My boyfriend's family promised my parents they would spare no effort to treat me and take care of me for life. But on their way home, overwhelmed with grief, my parents were involved in a car accident and died. My boyfriend's family immediately changed their attitude, saying I was stripped naked during the rescue and was no longer a pure woman. They directly gave up on treatment, took me home, and left me unattended, leading to my death from an infected wound. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the moment before the wedding began. Smiling, I asked my boyfriend, "Darling, how about we have a different kind of wedding? You wear the wedding dress, and I'll wear the suit." Watching my playful friends and my drunk boyfriend, I realized I had been reborn to the night before the wedding. At that time, as I was about to step into a new life with the blessings of my friends, little did I know I was stepping straight into hell. My boyfriend's younger brother, Bob, was a late-born child, excessively spoiled, and a classic example of a brat, because at this moment in my previous life, as we bid farewell to our friends, and were preparing to return to the hotel to get things ready for the wedding, we saw Bob playing with firecrackers. I casually advised him a couple of times to be careful and not to mess with those things, never expecting he would hold a grudge against me at the wedding the next day. While I was walking from the audience area to the stage as part of the ceremony, he secretly tucked firecrackers into the train of my wedding dress and lit them. The soft fabric of the dress caught fire immediately, and the burning material fused with my skin, continuously scorching my entire body. At that moment, overwhelming pain engulfed me, and I don't remember how I was rescued or how I ended up in the hospital. When I woke up in the hospital, I realized I had suffered severe burns and was disfigured. My boyfriend Elliot's family promised to do everything in their power to cure me in order to protect Bob, and vowed that Elliot would treat me well for the rest of my life. Our family's financial situation wasn't great, and my heartbroken parents had no choice but to suppress their hatred, prioritizing my treatment above all else. Little did anyone know, on their way home to pack and return to the hospital to care for me, they were involved in a car accident that claimed their lives instantly, leaving the vehicle completely destroyed. Elliot's family immediately changed their attitude, with the entire household cursing me as shameless and promiscuous because I was stripped naked in public when rescued on my wedding day. They refused to spend another penny on my treatment, discharged me directly, and abandoned me at home without care. In the end, I died from infected wounds. Their family paid no price whatsoever, and even inherited mine and my parents' assets. How can I possibly accept this in this life? I'll make the Elliott family taste the bitter consequences. 2. After seeing my friends off, I noticed Bob playing with firecrackers and tried to gently advise him. "Bob, firecrackers are dangerous. It's better to stay away from them. You could get hurt if they explode." Elliot's father, standing nearby, looked displeased. "Bob may be young, but he knows his limits. There's no way he'd hurt anyone." In my previous life, I had argued with Elliot over wedding matters, so my tone was harsh. The Chin family parents immediately pointed at my nose and scolded me, saying I was meddling in their family affairs before even marrying into their family. Seeing Bob's small eyes glaring fiercely at me, I sighed. I had done all I could. "Uncle and Auntie, rest early today. Elliot will go with me to the hotel to set up. Tomorrow morning, his groomsmen will pick him up, and then we'll all go to the hotel together to fetch me." With that, she pulled the drunken Elliot to leave. I hadn't closed their front door tightly, and after just a few steps, I heard Elliot's mother's somewhat sharp voice. "She hasn't even married into our family yet, and she's already picking on her future brother-in-law. If she does marry in, will our Bob have any peace?" Hearing this almost made me laugh in anger. So, that's why this brat has had such a big attitude toward me every time I visit. I'm afraid this isn't the first time that Shin family parents have said such things. Perhaps in my past life, when that brat burned me with firecrackers, they played a part in it, too. Is this marriage really something I must go through with? I'm from out of town, and my parents, along with relatives and friends, are all at the hotel I sent Elliot off to. Sober up first while I went to find my parents. I wanted to see if I could persuade them to support me in calling off the wedding. There are plenty of ways to get back at their family. There's no need to sacrifice me for it. But as soon as I mentioned to my parents that I didn't want to get married, their tears instantly stopped, and they threw me out. They even threatened to disown me if I dared to cause trouble. I had no choice but to return to the room where a group of our friends and the makeup artists were waiting. After we finished dealing with everything, Elliot had sobered up a bit, seeing everyone enthusiastically urging me to try on the wedding dress. I suddenly shuddered and quickly pulled Elliot aside, giving him a gentle smile. "Darling, how about we have a different kind of wedding? You wear the wedding dress, and I'll wear a suit. I've developed a complete aversion to wedding dresses now. I never want to wear one again in my life." Seeing the excitement, everyone immediately started egging them on. Elliot didn't want to agree, but also didn't want to outright refuse me, and me on the eve of the wedding. So he came up with an excuse. "Daisy, my parents and relatives are quite traditional people. If we do something too trendy, they won't be able to accept it." At that moment, the makeup artist suddenly said, "Bro, don't worry. It's just about giving your wedding a unique opening. After it's done, I'll help you change outfits right away, and we'll stick to the original schedule. It'll be quick. Trust my skills." The makeup artist's bold, chest-thumping guarantee wasn't out of sudden kindness. Of course, it was, because I had just sent her a huge red envelope on WeChat, an extra-large one. Elliot's friends also joined in the fun, egging him on without caring about the consequences. "Come on, Elliot. Maybe posting it online will make you go viral. If you become an internet celebrity, you won't have to work anymore. You just got married. This could be your chance to hit the jackpot in both love and career." His friend really knew him well, hitting the nail on the head. He'd been wanting to do content creation for a long time, but never gained traction. Wasn't this the perfect ready-made material? Seeing him waver, I decided to fan the flames even more. "If you agree to this, after we get married, I'll hand over my salary card to you, and you'll have full control over our family's finances." Empty promises. Who can't make them? Just got to get through this wedding first. But as soon as these words were spoken, Elliot's good friends immediately started teasing him. I'm actually moved by this. If my wife were willing to take my salary card, I'd not only wear a wedding dress, I'd even wear a bikini. "Elliot, even your sister-in-law has said so much. How can you still refuse? Are you even a man?" With the atmosphere built up to this point, and the alcohol kicking in, Elliot agreed without hesitation instantly. Everyone burst into cheerful laughter, including me. With Elliot's agreement, many things fell smoothly into place. I took out my phone and ordered a delivery service to buy a wig similar to Elliot's hairstyle, then rushed to the mall to buy a pair of thick-soled, height-increasing shoes. The makeup artist and MC had to rearrange the schedule because of our last-minute changes, but since I secretly paid extra, they came to coordinate with us. After a busy night of preparations and makeup, I followed Elliot's friend to Elliot's house to avoid raising suspicion. I wore a mask directly, and Elliot's friend covered for me, saying it was a special performance prepared for the wedding. Although Elliot's parents had quite a few complaints about me, because of this, we managed to leave unnoticed and hurried off to pick up the bride. As for Elliot, although he was thin, his build was still more robust than mine. Following my suggestion, the makeup artist covered his head with a large piece of lace veil. From the outside, It looked faintly visible, just enough to recognize a woman's silhouette, but not enough to make out any details. Seeing this, I was extremely satisfied. The money was well spent. I finally arrived at the ritual site that had haunted my nightmares in my past life. Piercing through my mask at my parents seated below the stage, my heart ached with bitterness. But now wasn't the time for sentimentality. Scanning the area, I finally spotted my target, the mischievous brat, Bob. Seeing him sneaking around, I curiously followed him, and was utterly stunned by what I saw. In my previous life, he had only taken a few small firecrackers, but this time, his arms were loaded with sparklers, fairy fireworks, and even strings of firecrackers. I quickly had someone pull him over to Elliot's father and mother, urgently asking them to keep an eye on the child and not let him set off firecrackers recklessly. Only when I saw the family nod impatiently in agreement did I feel slightly relieved, and went to follow the MC's procedures. Just before the ceremony began, spotting the small figure sneaking up to Elliot, who was clueless in her wedding dress, the corner of my mouth beneath the mask couldn't help but twitch. "Please welcome the bride," with the MC's voice. Elliot, wearing pristine lace gloves, led my father onto the stage. All eyes in the room were fixed on the two of them, and no one noticed a child sneaking around behind the bride. Perhaps someone did notice, but they likely dismissed it as just a mischievous child wanting to join in the excitement behind the bride. No one noticed the child secretly slipping firecrackers into the enormous folds of the wedding dress. Then he took out fireworks and stuffed them in. Finally, the bride stood still at the front of the stage, but the mischievous kid seemed a bit too greedy, and the thing wasn't easy to light. The movement was a bit too much. Seeing this, I quickly removed the mask from my face and shouted to everyone, "Quick! Stop him! Bob!" But everyone thought it was part of the show. Instantly, all eyes in the room were on me, and many gasped in surprise, followed by a burst of applause. And under the cover of this lively atmosphere, Bob successfully lit the fireworks. The sound of the fireworks burning was muffled, frightened. I reached out toward my dad, and when he saw me on the stage, he also laughed, letting go of the bride, Elliot, and strode toward me. Wedding dresses themselves are highly flammable, especially with the large train, an oversized veil. So, the wedding dress on Elliot burned faster than in my previous life, and when the fireworks ignited, he hadn't yet noticed anything amiss. Bob, being small in stature, couldn't see what was happening on the stage. Spotting the firecrackers starting to explode nearby, he immediately clapped his hands and began jumping up and down, seeing me continuously stretching out my hand and shouting loudly at him, "Take it off! Take it off!" Elliot finally sensed something was wrong. The burning sensation on his body, coupled with his younger brother's malicious cheers beside him. He looked down in shock to find himself on fire, immediately panicking as he tried to remove the wedding dress to save himself, while also attempting to call for help from those around him. But the flames gave him no time to cry for help. Like me in my past life, he was engulfed by the fire in mere seconds. No, his fate was even worse than mine. The burning veil wrapped around his head, turning him into a human torch. His agonized screams instantly filled the air. But unlike me, he was far more ruthless. Realizing he couldn't escape the flames, his first instinct was to grab hold of Bob. Seeing their son on fire, the Chin parents were initially frantic with panic, but when they noticed their eldest son tightly holding on to their youngest, they immediately screamed in horror. Elliot's father even grabbed a bottle of alcohol from the table and hurled it at Elliot without hesitation. The spilled alcohol acted like fuel to the flames, causing the fire to surge 2 high. In agony, Elliot let go. This was an attempt to kill Elliot. Even if I were to punish them, I couldn't let this torch ignite the scene and cause a fire. Everyone at the scene, except for the Elliot family, was innocent. I quickly ran to grab the fire extinguisher and rushed over shouting, "Move aside. You actually want to kill him. I won't let you harm Elliot." As I spoke, I aimed the fire extinguisher directly at Elliot and sprayed him hard. As for the potential side effects of spraying a fire extinguisher directly at a person, sorry, but I'm just a lovesick woman, desperate to save the one I love. Seeing him about to be killed, how could I think of anything else? At the wedding scene, A surprise turned into a shock. Police cars, fire trucks, and ambulances arrived at the scene simultaneously. Seeing Elliot burned so severely, they quickly lifted him onto the ambulance for emergency treatment, while Elliot's mother started causing trouble nearby. She pulled the misbehaving child Bob, whose hand was severely scalded, and blocked the emergency doctors, insisting they treat her younger son's injuries first. After being rejected, she threw a tantrum and shouted, "They're both my sons. How could I not care? But we don't even know if the older one will survive. Isn't it better to save our younger one first?" Hearing this, the gathered relatives and friends could barely hold back their emotions. They all urged her to stop making a scene, seeing that Elliot's injuries were far worse than in my past life. How could I just watch him die now? He still has his uses. I rushed forward, shoving Elliot's mother, who had been blocking the doctors, aside, and screamed at her through tears. "It's your own son. Why must you insist on Elliot's death? What did he do wrong? Not only did you want to burn him to death, but you even stopped the doctors from saving him. How could there be parents as vicious as you?" Hearing this, the Chin parents panicked. With the police present, how could they bear the reputation of being murderers? They immediately tried to stop me from speaking, but relatives, friends, and the police, who had long been appalled, directly intervened to block them. Elliot's situation was more urgent, so I accompanied him to the hospital first, while my parents and Elliot's father stayed at the wedding venue to handle the aftermath. Elliot's mother came with us to take the mischievous child to the hospital for wound treatment. Elliot suffered severe burns, with large areas of his skin fused to the burnt synthetic fabric, and remnants of the fire extinguisher's chemicals still on him. I sat outside the operating room, staring blankly at the red light. What was Elliot thinking when I was sent here in my past life? Before I could ponder the answer to this question, someone suddenly slapped me across the face. Elliot's mother, holding hands with Bob, whose hands were wrapped up like pig's feet, glared at me fiercely. "You wretched woman. If it weren't for you causing trouble at the wedding, my son wouldn't have gotten hurt." I covered my face, the hatred accumulated over 2 lifetimes surging in my heart. I stepped ahead intensely and loudly demanded, "Your younger son's mischief caused your elder son to be seriously injured. How is that my fault?" The brat glared at me with hatred and suddenly shouted, "Mom bought me firecrackers to set them off on you. If you hadn't swapped clothes with my brother, how could I have gotten the wrong person?" What does this mean? Was it also the Chun parents who instructed him to stuff firecrackers into me in my past life? Looking at Elliot's mother, whose face turned pale with shock at these words, I didn't want to think any further. A surge of old and new hatred overwhelmed me, and with a furious cry, I lunged forward and pinned her to the ground. With a loud thud, the back of her head hit the floor, leaving her dazed. I swung my arms wide and slapped her face wildly over a dozen times, then grabbed her head and smashed it against the ground. While beating her, I kept shouting, "This is premeditated murder. You not only wanted to kill me, but also Elliot. You're all beasts, worse than animals." The people around were trying to break up the fight, but I looked too fierce. Even the mischievous Kid Bob was too scared to step forward. It wasn't until the hospital security arrived that we were pulled apart. At that moment, Elliot's mother, seeing that I was restrained, tried to break free from the people holding her, and came at me to hit me. How could I take such a loss? I immediately shouted, "Call the police! Help me call the police and arrest this murderer." My husband, who's still in critical care, was murdered by them. Elliot's mother shrank back instantly upon hearing my words. It was originally just a case of a mischievous kid causing an accident that left his older brother severely injured. But if people were to find out that she was actually the mastermind behind it, whether this would be considered murder or not would truly be hard to say. Overwhelmed by intense fear, she had no choice but to suppress her anger and approached me with a stiff expression, trying to appease me. "Daisy, you've misunderstood. Kids say silly things. Don't take it to heart. How could a mother not wish the best for her son and daughter-in-law?" Elliot's mother thought she was being clever, but she didn't realize that her actions only made her look guilty. So, even before Elliot came out of the operating room, his mother was taken away by the police as Elliot's legally married wife. The mischievous Kid Bob was temporarily placed under my care as a sister-in-law. At first, he was intimidated by my earlier outburst when I hit his mother, so he didn't dare misbehave and sat quietly like a quail. But he was used to being a little tyrant at home. And on top of that, everyone had been running around since morning without eating a single bite. The adults were barely holding on, let alone a child. He jumped right in front of me and kicked my leg, barking orders like a little emperor. Stupid woman. I'm hungry. Buy me a burger. My response was a sharp slap across his face. Eat, eat, eat. That's all you think about. Your brother is in this state because of you, and you still have the nerve to ask for food. Everyone around had pieced together the backstory from the earlier commotion, so no one objected to me disciplining the brat. But a brat's mischief is honed over years. How could one slap make them behave? He immediately let out a piercing scream, unleashing an ultrasonic attack that made everyone in the emergency room wince in disgust. Before anyone could complain, I clamped my hand over his mouth, grabbed his injured arm, and firmly restrained him. After apologizing to the crowd, I dragged him outside. When we reached a secluded spot behind the hospital, I released him, and he instantly collapsed to the ground, writhing in pain. Unfortunately, there was no one here who cared about him. I stood coldly by, watching him make a mess of himself without batting an eye. Finally, when he felt less pain, had thrown enough tantrums, and most importantly, was too weak from hunger, he stood up and looked at me with fear in his eyes. Tell me why you threw firecrackers at me. If you don't, you know what I'm capable of. I clenched my fist to emphasize the point. The kid was smart, knowing he had no one to back him up. He didn't dare throw another fit. Under my threat, he spilled everything. My mom said we should embarrass you at the wedding so it'd be easier to discipline you after marriage. That's why she told me to play with firecrackers in your wedding dress. What a stupid and vicious family. Poor me for not seeing their true colors before marriage in my past life. 9. Bob followed me back to the emergency room with a pitiful look. Eating was out of the question. Around me, he could only feast on air. The moment I arrived there, a nurse called out for me to pay the bill. How could I possibly be willing to pay for Elliot? Pointing at my disheveled state, I smiled bitterly and said I would pay once my family arrived. The nurse was very kind and understanding. We sat there for quite a while before my parents and Elliot's father finally came in. Fearing my parents might be persuaded to pay, I rushed over and knelt before Elliot's father in front of everyone, pleading, "Dad, please give me the wedding gift money to pay for Elliot's hospital fees. He's lying in the operating room, life hanging by a thread. You can't just ignore your eldest son because you have a younger one." Yes, I'm emotionally blackmailing him. Elliot's father is a man of little capability, extremely calculating, but also obsessed with saving face. If I had directly asked him for the money, he would have definitely found a way to make my parents pay instead. So, I spoke up first to cut off his escape route. Seeing me like this, he instinctively covered the black bag he was holding, then seemed to think better of it, and turned to my dad instead. "Look at this. In-laws." I winked at my mother, and the tacit understanding between mother and daughter made my mother understand quickly, and directly pulled my dad who wanted to speak to me. Unable to shift the blame, and unwilling to pay the money, he clenched his bag strap and stood there, seemingly at a loss for words. How could I give him time to react? I immediately started kowtowing, speaking in a clear and articulate voice loud enough for everyone around to hear. "Dad, I beg you, Elliot is still young. As long as we have the money to treat him, he can definitely recover. Please don't give up on him." At this point, many of the onlookers from the educated youth began explaining the situation to the newcomers. It was that old family who used their mischievous youngest son to set off firecrackers in the bride's wedding dress. Who would have thought the young couple was trendy? It was their own son wearing the dress. The burns were severe, and he's still in critical condition. This family is really too much, even unwilling to spend money on their own son's treatment. The girl just wanted the wedding gift money, and they didn't even want to give that. Elliot's father twitched at the surrounding murmurs, quickly stepped forward to help me up, and shoved the black bag in his hand into mine. "Child, what are you doing? I'm his father. Of course I'd sell everything to get him treated. Don't worry." I stood up with his support, After taking the bag, he glanced at Bob, who was silently tugging at him, and casually asked, "Where's your mom?" I kindly answered him. Mom is suspected of murder and was taken away by the police. Elliot's father was instantly stunned and froze in place. What? Ignoring Elliot's frantic and furious father, I picked up my bag and pulled my parents along to pay the fees for Elliot. I briefly explained to my parents on the way that it might Elliot's mother who instructed Bob to set off firecrackers in my wedding dress, all to humiliate me at the wedding and control me after marriage. My parents were both furious and terrified upon hearing this. My mom clutched her chest and said to me, "Thank goodness it wasn't you wearing that dress. If it had been you lying in the operating room, how could we old folks have gone on living?" My dad patted her back to calm her down, but he was also seething with anger. He turned to me and said, "Divorce. We're divorcing him. My precious daughter can't marry into such a family and suffer." I waved my hand, stuffed the remaining money from the paid bill into my own pocket, and walked out with my parents holding the empty bag. Not divorcing yet. His family is always afraid of losing out in marriage, splitting everything with us down the middle, and even playing tricks behind my back. I can't accept ending it like this. My mom froze for a moment, then smacked me on the head. "You silly girl. Don't go developing a romantic brain now of all times." But I couldn't tell my parents about my past life, afraid they'd worry. So I just said I knew what I was doing and told them not to worry. Finally, they had no choice. My dad sighed and told me, "If you need anything, just let us know. Don't suffer in silence." Speaking of which, I did have something to say. No matter what they say, don't lend them any money. Not a single penny. After giving my parents these instructions, we returned to find that Elliot had already been moved out of the operating room and into the ICU for observation as soon as Elliot's father saw our family. He eagerly snatched the black bag from my hands, feeling that it was empty. His face darkened, but it seemed she still needed something from me, so she held back and forced a smile at me, trying to please me as she said, "Daisy, Elliot has already been rescued. What your mother did was indeed wrong, but she meant no harm. Could you talk to the police and get her released?" "Released? Of course. She'll be released. Someone like her wouldn't get a long sentence even if she went in. Besides, Elliot might not even want to press charges. Of course, she has to come out so she can face the ending I've prepared for her." I made a verbal agreement with Elliot's father, who promised to cover all of Elliot's medical expenses and ensure his recovery. In return, I agreed to let Elliot's mother leave. I wasn't comfortable letting my parents go home alone, so I escorted them back first before picking up Elliot's mother. When she saw me again, her eyes avoided mine, a far cry from her previous shrewish demeanor. The family of three reunited outside the hospital room. After a tearful embrace, they turned to leave together, showing no intention of taking responsibility for Elliot. I didn't stop them. When Elliot was out of danger and woke up in the general ward, wrapped head to toe in white bandages, he saw that I was the only one in the room with him. Seeing his eyes darting around, I understood what he meant and kindly told him, "Bob got burned, too, these past couple days. Mom and Dad are more worried about him, so they might be a little too busy to check on you. Don't overthink it." Hearing this, I noticed his eyes dimming noticeably. I sneered inwardly. This already hurts him. In my past life, when I was lying in the hospital bed, they barged in and told me outright that my parents had died in a car crash because of me, that they had no money left for my treatment, and then dragged me out of the hospital right then and there. But I'm a kind-hearted person, knowing that Bob would come to the hospital today for a dressing change. So I waited there early. When I saw this family of three, I didn't bother with words. I just grabbed Bob and ran toward the ward. The parents, naturally worried, instinctively chased after me. Once inside the ward, the couple started hurling insults at me, not caring about disturbing Elliot or noticing that he was awake. The brat Bob, emboldened by his parents, tried to hit me, but I dodged, causing him to miss and fall flat on the ground. The couple hurriedly came up to help, and seizing the moment while they were silent, I spoke weakly. "Mom, Dad, You promised me before that you'd do everything, even if it meant going bankrupt, to cure Elliot, now that he's doing much better. Don't you think we should send him to a hospital in the provincial capital? The medical care there is better than what we have here. Elliot's father immediately retorted, I've already asked the doctors. Even if his extensive burns heal, skin grafting won't be cheap, and there'll be lasting effects. He won't even be able to work afterward. We can't count on him for our retirement. Why bother treating him? Elliot's mother chimed in. Exactly. The family's money should all go to Bob in the future. How can we waste it on this useless one? Looking at Elliot, lying on the hospital bed with his eyes closed, and trembling all over, I suppressed a laugh in my heart and said, But all this happened because of Bob. You can't favor your younger son and ignore the life of your eldest son. Elliot's mother rolled her eyes and retorted, That's because he's useless. If he hadn't swapped clothes with you, this wouldn't have happened. He has no one to blame but himself. The family's shameless and unreasonable behavior was enough to make outsiders feel disheartened, let alone Elliot, who was lying vulnerable on the hospital bed at that moment like a complete love-struck fool. I immediately made a declaration of love. If you won't take care of him, I will. I'll go live every day to earn money, and I will definitely cure him. Hearing this, Elliot's mother rolled her eyes, immediately nudged Elliot's father, who was about to speak, and suddenly changed her tone. Elliot is our son. Of course. His treatment is our responsibility. We'll handle the live streaming when the time comes. I knew this family couldn't resist such blatant financial temptation. Folks, my son has extensive burns and still needs skin grafts. If you donate, I'll show you how burn patients go to the bathroom. Family, this young man got burned on his wedding day. Didn't even get to the honeymoon. Will his down there still work? I'll answer that later. But first, let's see some donations. Elliot's father and mother held their phones, completely disregarding his dignity, filming his burns every day in the live stream. Some with morbid curiosity made bizarre requests. And for money, they obliged everyone. Sometimes when they pointed the camera at me, I didn't resist, performing the role of a devoted wife eagerly awaiting her husband's recovery all day long. They completely disregarded the patient's dignity and feelings. So, when Elliot recovered enough to move slightly, he pointed outside the hospital room, telling the two to leave, but having tasted the sweetness of live streaming, why would they listen? Even Bob followed suit, holding up his phone to Elliot every day. My brother got burned like a caterpillar. All black. Come on, everyone. St. Seeps. I'll live stream when they remove the bandages later. But now I'm playing the role of a devoted and loving wife. Just as the two of them were live streaming passionately, I knelt down and shouted, Mom, Dad, you earn money from live streaming. Too. Please, I beg you, get Elliot the skin graft surgery. The two of them made money by selling misery and bizarre content. Scared by my outburst, they quickly cut off the live stream. Elliot's mother glanced disdainfully at him lying on the hospital bed. He's already burned so badly. What's the use of a skin graft? He's already this ugly anyway. Skin grafting for burns is not just about aesthetics. Delaying the procedure can lead to severe consequences such as delayed wound healing, infections, sepsis, and even organ failure. However, these two were convinced that their eldest son would never fully recover from his burns and wouldn't be able to support them in their old age. They refused to spend a single penny more on him, only wanting to exploit whatever remaining value he had as quickly as possible. But that depends on whether I allow it. I straightened up and snapped at them. If you refuse to pay, I'll expose you to the media. You won't get to profit off Elliot anymore. Hearing this, Elliot's father and mother reluctantly did the math, their faces darkening with displeasure before grudgingly agreeing. After everyone else had left, Elliot held my hand with tears of gratitude. Daisy, thank you. You're the only one who truly cares about me. I comforted him verbally saying, Don't cry. It's not good for your injuries. Don't worry. No matter what happens to you, I'll always love you. But deep down, I couldn't help but think, this guy was blaming me just 2 days ago when he could finally speak again. saying it was my fault for swapping clothes with him that led to his burns. With a family like that, how could a bad bamboo sprout produce good shoots? The Chin family agreed to provide skin grafts for Elliot, but they were unwilling to pay extra, insisting on the cheapest skin graft option from the doctor. I had no objections to this. For me, as long as he could survive, nothing else mattered at the moment. Post-surgery care was supposed to be meticulous, but Elliot's parents forcibly took him out of the hospital, citing their inability to afford the medical expenses. Of course, I had to go with them. It just so happened that none of his family members wanted to take care of Elliot, so they were more than happy to have me there, and no one objected. After taking Elliot back home, their family started playing the victim, claiming they had no money left for post-surgery care and had no choice but to bring the child back. They still shamelessly filmed Elliot without restraint. After they finished, I quietly found Bob. I saw him counting his live stream earnings, so I spoke up directly. No matter how much you earn, it's useless. All that money will have to go toward your brother's treatment eventually. Now that he's back home, he feels he is backing and isn't afraid of me at all. He retorted bluntly, "Bullshit. My mom said everything in this family is meant for me. My brother is just a useless waste now." I sneered. "So what? No matter what, your brother was raised by your parents, and didn't they still pay the $100,000 for his skin graft surgery?" With that, I ignored him and went to the kitchen to cook for Elliot. Not long after, I heard Elliot's agonized wails coming from his room. I dropped what I was holding and rushed in, only to see Bob holding a stick while blood seeped from Elliot's body. That was the newly grafted skin being knocked open. Bob laughed at him without restraint. "How ridiculous. Don't think acting pitiful will make Mom and Dad feel sorry for you. Let me tell you, everything in this house is mine. Don't even think about taking a single advantage." Hearing the commotion, Elliot's parents rushed over. His father immediately scolded. "Why did you provoke your brother for no reason? The family paid for your surgery, and you didn't even take care of it properly. Now that there's a problem, don't expect us to pay for another one." Meanwhile, Elliot's mother pulled Bob out of the room and suddenly shouted at me from the kitchen, "You wasteful woman. Why didn't you turn off the gas if you weren't in the kitchen? Are you trying to poison us all?" At this moment, I noticed Elliot glance painfully toward the kitchen. As a good wife, of course, I rushed to his side with concern, carefully examining the wound. Sure enough, a small piece was missing. With heartbroken eyes, I cried while looking at him. "What are we going to do? A piece is missing, and Mom and Dad won't fix it for you. It's all my fault for being useless, for not having the money to get you surgery." "Boo-hoo-hoo." Elliot gasped in pain, but still managed to comfort me. "No, it's not your fault. It's all they're doing." The hatred in his eyes was terrifying. I said to him firmly, "Let's observe for a few days first. If it gets worse, I'll go out and borrow money to get you treated." Hearing this, a glimmer of hope seemed to rekindle in him. The way he looked at me was filled with gratitude, as if I were the love of his life. If I hadn't seen him sizing up every family member with equal hatred, I might have believed it. I know he hates me. He believes his burns were suffered in my place. I have to admit, his intuition is sometimes quite accurate. Elliot's injuries weren't improving. The poor conditions at home, combined with my lack of genuine attentive care, led to the worsening of his wounds. I showed him the information I found online. The internet says, if you don't get this treated soon, your condition might worsen, and it could even kill you. What should we do? Right now, Mom and Dad just want to use you as a cash cow. They don't want to get you treated." As I spoke, I started crying. "Elliot, what should we do? You're going to die. What should we do? I don't want you to die." Every day, aside from begging the Chin family to treat Elliot, I repeated these words to him. Finally, as his injuries grew worse, the light in his eyes began to fade. He asked me to help him exercise, saying he wanted to use the bathroom on his own and reclaim his dignity. I certainly respected him and quickly brought him a wheelchair that very day. The Chin family became increasingly unreasonable, believing every penny in the household was theirs and would eventually be left to Bob. Now they've even started eyeing the money in my pocket. And for my parents, sighed when they saw me bring back the wheelchair. They scolded me fiercely for wasting money on a useless person. The light in Elliot's eyes grew increasingly dim, and he began sitting in his wheelchair, frequently gazing toward the kitchen. I sensed something was wrong, and started making excuses every day to go out and borrow money for his surgery, running out each time. But every evening, I would return with a look of despair and tell him I hadn't managed to borrow anything. Of course, to make it convincing, I really did go out to borrow money. However, the people I borrowed money from were all Elliot's friends and relatives. My own friends and family are all out of town, so it wasn't easy to ask them for help. Some kind-hearted ones were willing to lend me 1,000 or so, while others refused. I didn't push them too hard. With me not being home, that family's live streams became even more extreme, which took an even heavier toll on Elliot's mental and physical health. Watching their live streams, I felt that what they were doing would drive any normal person insane in just a few days, especially for Elliot, who is already in a very fragile state of mind right now. Finally, one day before I was about to leave again, Elliot grabbed my hand. "Please don't go out." "Okay. Anyway, I can't be cured anymore. If I die, so be it. I just want you to spend one last good day with me." Wow. I almost jumped up when I heard that. Don't think I don't know how many sleeping pills this guy hid while I was resting, or how many times he practiced sneaking into the kitchen alone. The Chin family wouldn't even glance at him outside of live streams, finding him an eyesore. Only I, who didn't mind him, set up a small bed in his room to care for him. Noticed he's planning to make his move. From his perspective, I must seem pretty good, right? Even after all this, I haven't abandoned him. I even lent him money for treatment, and it was me who fought with his family so he could get skin grafts. He actually wanted to take me down with him. I always said nothing good could come from a family like that. Of course, I didn't plan to burn bridges. Instead, I shouted excitedly, "No, I won't let you give up. I'll keep borrowing money today. Sooner or later, I'll get enough for your surgery. Don't lose hope." Hearing this, he hung his head and asked me, "Don't you love me? Aren't you willing to stay with me forever? To be together with me always?" I really wonder if my brain was clouded by lard before. How could I have ended up with such a thing? But the show must go on. I shook him off directly, grabbed my coat, and headed out. After a few steps, with tears welling up in my eyes, I turned back to look at him. "Of course I want to be with you forever. How could you doubt my love for you? I'll go borrow money right now. Even if I have to crawl on my knees step by step, I'll get the money for your surgery. We'll be together from now on." He stared at me intently without saying a word. I didn't wait for his response, either, and turned to leave. After stepping out, I thought it over and went to borrow money from my friends. They all knew about my situation and, unable to persuade me to leave, generously lent me what they could. Then I had my parents transfer me some money, too, and after thinking it over, I went and borrowed from several online loan platforms. At one point, I opened the Chin family's live stream to take a look. I don't know what got into them today, but they were even more outrageous than usual. It felt like they didn't treat Elliot as a human being at all. He had less dignity than a monkey being gawked at in a circus. None of them noticed how frequently Elliot kept glancing toward the kitchen until the live stream ended. I went to a fast food restaurant and ordered the cheapest meal, then sat there spacing out for a long time. After that, I kept searching on my phone for information about skin grafting and related topics until late at night, when I slowly made my way to Elliot's house. Before I even reached their door, I sharply detected the smell of rotten eggs. I quickly took a few steps back in alarm, rushed downstairs to call the fire department on my phone, and then dialed the police. Their family's wrongdoing shouldn't harm the neighbors. The police arrived quickly after evacuating the residence. Firefighters went up to ventilate the room by opening windows. A long time later, they came down and told me, "I am sorry, Mom, but your family members have all passed away." Soon, police and ambulances went up. The case is quite simple. A man who was burned due to his younger brother's actions chose to turn on the gas and take his entire family with him to suicide because of his family's harsh treatment. His newlywed wife, who was also intended to be killed, escaped the tragedy, because she went out to borrow money out of concern for his condition. A marketing account learned of this incident and wrote an article about the man's ordeal. It also wrote, because of love, he decided to spare her life. This incident quickly went viral online, with Elliot being dubbed the god of pure love and receiving much praise, which is quite ironic. He didn't gain fame while alive, but became an internet sensation after death. I wonder if Elliot would find it comforting to know his wish came true in this way. As for me, the sole survivor of the Chin family, Elliot's wife inherited the majority of the family's assets, including the money the Chin family recently earned from live streaming. To be honest, I truly feel no guilt taking those donations from viewers who tuned into the Chun family's bizarre live streams. After finally settling the Chin family's property affairs, I repaid the borrowed money and left the place under many sympathetic gazes, returning to my hometown for the rest of my life. I want to spend it with my family. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comment section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my previous life, my best friend started trying for a second child with her husband, right after giving birth. As an obstetrician, I explained to her in detail the importance of postpartum recovery, advising her that she would have a better chance of conceiving once she had fully recovered. She took my advice and stopped letting her husband get close to her. Unexpectedly, her husband couldn't resist and found a mistress who quickly became pregnant. Her in-laws, who favored sons over daughters, drove her and her daughter out of the house. Out of kindness, I took them in, but my best friend blamed everything on me, resenting me for meddling and ruining her happy marriage. When I wasn't paying attention, she pushed me from the 23rd floor, and I fell to my death. My body shattered into a bloody mess. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the 7th day after my best friend gave birth. As soon as I entered the hospital room, I saw her husband, Lu Jian, holding her close, whispering something in her ear, his hand slipping under the hem of her hospital gown. The intern doctors following behind me blushed and couldn't help but cough, startling the two. Shen Jiao, feeling awkward at the sight of our group, playfully pushed Lu Jian away. Lu Jian glared at us in annoyance, muttering that we had terrible timing, but not before giving her a firm squeeze under the gown before casually withdrawing his hand. Everyone was stunned by the scene. Before I could say anything, Shen Jiao complained to me, "Ew, why did you bring so many unrelated people with you?" Today, looking at her expression, my mind flashed back to the same ward round in my previous life. Back then, I came alone. Shen Jiao was my middle school classmate when I first transferred schools and struggled to fit into the new environment. She was the one who reached out to befriend me. Our friendship lasted over a decade, and I considered her my closest friend. She said she couldn't rest well with too many people around, so I pulled strings to secure a highly sought-after private room for her. I even personally delivered her baby and took care of her postpartum recovery. She claimed she was shy and disliked having her privacy exposed to many people, so I often bent hospital rules, making excuses to examine her wounds alone without bringing others along. Little did I know that all of this was just an excuse for her to be intimate with her husband. I caught them being affectionate in the hospital room more than once. Since I was the only familiar face, they felt no shame, openly flirting and cuddling right in front of me. On the 7th day after Shinjao gave birth, I noticed love bites on her body that her hospital gown couldn't hide. When I examined her wound, I found it had reopened and was bleeding. I knew the two must have given into their urges. Concerned for Shinjao's health, I found an excuse to send Lu Jian away and gently warned her not to indulge him too much, but she refused to listen, defending Lu Jian at every turn, saying it was his way of loving her. Shinjao proudly told me, "Do you know that physical attraction is more important than emotional attraction?" She explained that Lu Jian was doing it for her sake, hoping she could quickly conceive a second child, a son. Her mother-in-law had already made several snide remarks because she had given birth to a girl. As an obstetrician, I had no choice but to sternly explain the importance of postpartum recovery. "You had a C-section," he reminded her. "There's still a wound on your uterus, and if it hasn't healed, it can't withstand the tension of uterine expansion again. There's a high risk of uterine rupture. Finally, my warning scared her, and she began resisting Lu Jian's advances. But I never expected Lu Jian would actually go out and find a mistress who quickly got pregnant. Xinjiao's mother-in-law was convinced the mistress was carrying a boy and insisted that Lu Jian divorce Xinjiao, driving her and her daughter out. Xinjiao's parents had already passed away in a car accident earlier, so I quickly took her and the child into my home. Who would have thought he would blame all of this on me? While I wasn't paying attention, he pushed me out the window. Thinking back to that pool of bright red flesh I saw from my soul floating midair, I can't help but close my eyes. Xinjiao, you just gave birth not long ago. Your wounds haven't healed yet, and you can't have intercourse. If your husband can't hold back, don't you know to take care of your own body? What if you get pregnant again? The doctor's scolding snapped me out of my memories. I turned and saw it was Xiao Xiao, one of the interns. This kid has always been upright, and though a bit shy now, for the sake of the patient's health, he spoke up firmly and righteously. The other interns also noticed the red marks on Xinjiao's body, and one by one, their faces showed disdain. Xiao Li Kaimdin, you two really aren't careful at all. Even though this is a hospital room, it's still a hospital. Xinjiao's face flushed, bright red from their criticism, looking like she was about to cry as she stared at me, and demanded, "Your teacher hasn't even said anything yet. What business is it of yours? You, hurry up and tell him off. I don't want so many people coming to check on me. Why did you bring them all here?" Xiao Xiao said righteously, "Bringing us here is hospital policy. If you don't want us here, you can transfer to another hospital." Lu Jian flared up at this, rushing forward to push Xiao Xiao, but I raised my hand to block him. I frowned. "What are you doing?" He shouted even louder than me. "What are you doing? Aren't you Xinjiao's best friend? Is this how you act as a best friend? Bringing others here to laugh at her?" Staring at his somewhat fierce face, I suddenly laughed. "So you know this is a joke?" I looked at Xinjiao, who was staring at me in disbelief, and told her, "Before, when I came to check your wounds privately, I violated hospital rules. Now I have to accept the hospital's punishment, a 6-month suspension from professional activities. I came this time to inform you that another obstetrician will be taking over from now on, and these interns will continue to assist." He opened his mouth wide, the words of blame finally swallowed back, replaced by an expression of embarrassment. "Au, I didn't mean to. I didn't realize it was that serious." I shook my head. "It's fine. I agreed to it earlier myself. I was wrong. I was in the wrong. In my past life, it was a huge mistake. But this time, I'll do everything I can to stay away from that crazy couple. Don't worry. As long as you take good care of yourself and rest properly, the wound will heal quickly. It doesn't matter which doctor is in charge." After saying this, I led the interns out of the ward, not even bothering to check Xinjiao's wound. As I stepped out of the ward, I glanced back at Xinjiao, who had already nestled back into Lu Jian's arms. Lu Jian kissed her hand and began to get restless again. "Don't take it to heart. It has nothing to do with you. You didn't know the hospital's rules. He was the one who knowingly broke them." After the door closed, faint, indescribable sounds could be heard from inside. The interns were all furious. Xiao Xiao complained, "They really have no shame." I advised him, "As doctors, we've already given our medical advice. Whether the patient takes care of their own body or follows the advice is no longer our concern." I instructed her to record today's advice to Xinjiao and Lu Jian that they must not engage in sexual activity during the postpartum period, as pregnancy could lead to serious consequences, so that we'd have proof in case they caused trouble later. After that, I packed up my things and went home to begin my 6-month leave. This violation was actually something I admitted to the leadership myself. Right after being reborn, I immediately decided to stay as far away from Xinjiao and Lu Jian as possible, respecting their fate. The leadership didn't think it was a big issue, and initially didn't plan to give me such a severe penalty. It was I who insisted on the 6-month suspension. Ever since getting into medical school, I've been spinning like a top without stopping. This was the perfect opportunity to take a good rest. I booked a European music tour and was set to leave in 3 days. Little did I expect that in just those 3 days, The hospital would already be in an uproar without me, occasionally visiting the provincial hospital ward to check on her, and deliberately interrupting her. And Lu Jian, the two of them grew increasingly reckless. Yesterday, the noise was so loud that it was heard by the family of the postpartum woman next door. A group of people even peered through the glass window on the ward door, and someone took out their phone to record a video and posted it online, although the video was quickly taken down due to its inappropriate content. The incident caused quite a stir. Netizens immediately began attacking the hospital, accusing it of negligence for failing to ensure the safety of the postpartum woman and allowing her to engage in intimate activities during her confinement period. Fortunately, I had instructed Xiao Xiao to carefully document the medical advice, and the hospital promptly released the relevant records online, proving that they had issued the necessary instructions, and that the postpartum woman had simply failed to follow them. This only fueled the fire, and netizens began doxing the two people in the video, with countless users condemning them for their shameless behavior in such a public setting. Just as I was engrossed in reading the heated comments from netizens, the doorbell suddenly rang. I peered through the peephole and saw Xian Jiao's face pressed close to it. Without a second thought, I instinctively muted my phone. Thankfully, I've always preferred thick curtains at home, the kind that don't let a single sliver of light through. Xin Xiao and Lu Jian probably had no idea I was inside. Sure enough, loud knocking, and Lu Jian's angry shouts soon followed. Are you dead? Why aren't you answering? Xin Xiao Weetspa, don't be like that. What if he gets angry and won't let us stay? What's there to be afraid of? Didn't you say he always listens to you? If it weren't for you being friends with him back then, he might have fallen into depression. How else would he have gotten into university and become a doctor? Lu Jian wrapped his arm around Xian Jiao. It's all thanks to you, my dear. How dare he refuse? Shan Jiao handed the child over and chuckled softly. Forget it. He's probably not home. Let me call him and ask. As soon as she finished speaking, my phone began to vibrate. I sneered and hung up without hesitation. It vibrated again, and I hung up once more. I sent her a WeChat message saying, I can't talk right now. What do you need? Oh, have you seen the video slandering me? Online. I'm so unlucky. The hospital won't even let me stay now. Netizens have doxed me. And Lu Jian. And we can't even go home. I really have nowhere else to go. Can we stay at your place? Before I could reply, he added pitifully, my wound hurts so much, and there's no doctor to see me. I came to your house. Can you help me take a look? And Xiao Bao is so pitiful, too. He's still so young. Who knows if he might get sick? Don't you like him the most? Surely you wouldn't just watch him end up on the streets. In my past life, when he was kicked out of the Lu family, he also used Xiao Bao as an excuse to make me take them in. And what did I get in the end? I pressed the keyboard forcefully as I replied. Sorry, I'm traveling abroad. I'm not in the country. Immediately, Shen Jiao's sharp scream came from outside the door. What do you mean? Traveling abroad now? Why not earlier or later? Is he doing this on purpose? Lu Jian kicked the door again in annoyance. Suddenly, he glanced toward the lock and pressed a few buttons on the keypad. A series of beeping error sounds came from outside, but Lu Jian laughed. He's not home. That actually works in our favor. Hurry up and ask him for the password. He rubbed his hands together with a lecherous grin. I've never lived in such a nice place before. Didn't you say last time that his house has floor-to-ceiling windows? When the time comes, we can hee-hee. Just thinking about it gets me excited. Shen Jiao's face instantly flushed red. She lightly punched Lu Jian and said, Oh my, what if someone sees? What's there to be afraid of? It's so high up. Who could possibly see? He leaned close to Shen Jiao's ear and whispered, Besides, wouldn't it be even better if someone did see? Listening to their vulgar talk, I was utterly speechless. What kind of weirdos are these? Is there nothing in their heads besides dirty thoughts? I quickly took the initiative and sent a message. I'm on the plane now. It's a 10-plus-hour flight, so I'm turning off my phone. Let's talk when I land. Seeing my message, the two outside finally gave up and left, cursing and grumbling. After that, until I actually went abroad, Xin Jiao kept sending me messages asking for my home's password, but I didn't reply to a single one. I had already made up my mind. If it came to it, I'd just say my phone was stolen as soon as I arrived overseas. Gradually, seeing that I wasn't responding, Xin Jiao stopped sending messages. I was just about to visit the British Museum when I received another update about her. In turn, Dr. Zhao called me saying, "Teacher Jiang, when your friend came to the hospital for her follow-up checkup, we found out she's pregnant again." I wasn't the least bit surprised, given how often they were at it. It would have been strange if she hadn't gotten pregnant. Zhao continued to vent. Her postpartum discharge hasn't even cleared up yet. I don't know how they couldn't hold back. Just thinking about it makes me sick. She had a C-section before, and her recovery hasn't been good. I'm worried her uterus might rupture if her belly gets bigger. Teacher Jiang, do you think I should try talking to him again? After a moment's thought, I told Zhao, just make sure you clearly explain all the risks to them. Keep proper records, and then leave the decision to them. Whatever you do, don't get involved. Based on my understanding of Lu Jian's family, they would definitely give up this child. After all, they're desperate for a son. If Zhao were to act out of momentary soft-heartedness, she'd end up taking the blame I'd subconsciously avoided, and they'd resent her for it. I've kept my distance from them in this lifetime, but I also don't want anyone to harm themselves out of kindness. A month later, I returned to China in high spirits. Every day, aside from working on my research papers, I treated myself to delicious homemade meals. One day, while shopping at the supermarket, I unexpectedly ran into Lu Jian. By his side was a young woman holding his arm, the two of them leaning close together as they picked out items, looking just like a married couple. It seemed this was Lu Jian's mistress. Even though some things have changed in this lifetime, certain events are inevitable due to some people's inherent nature. Lu Jian whispered something into the woman's ear, making her pout, and playfully hit him. The next second, Lu Jian raised his voice. "What's there to be afraid of? She's living like a princess in my house now. My mom takes such good care of her. What more could she possibly complain about?" He kissed the woman's cheek, and added, "Since she's pregnant, and can't attend to me, of course I have to find another woman. Should I just wait around? This kind of thing is hard to resist. No man can resist temptation, and a woman should know her place. In ancient times, when a woman got pregnant, she'd even take the initiative to find a concubine for her husband. How dare she make a fuss? Don't worry, sweetheart." The woman giggled again and said, "You're so amazing, hubby." Then the two of them walked off arm in arm. I didn't know whether to call Lu Jian an idiot or the mistress an idiot, but since there's one Xian Jiao in this world, naturally there can be a second. They all think they're the beloved female lead in a romance novel. 2 more months passed, and suddenly there was a case of obstructive dystocia in the hospital. The department head called me several times, so I immediately went to the hospital for a surgical consultation. By the time I finally stepped down from the operating table, I happened to run into Xian Jiao, who had come for a prenatal checkup. She and Lu Jian's mother were stopping another obstetrician from our department, Old Yang, while Xiao Xiao stood to the side holding some documents. "Doctor, what do you mean?" "What? This pregnancy must be terminated. But these are twins, the precious grandsons of our Lu family," Lu Jian's mother shouted, stomping her feet and drawing the attention of many people around. Old Yang lowered his voice helplessly, trying to reason with them. "It's precisely because they're twins that the pregnancy must be terminated. The mother got pregnant again before even finishing her postpartum recovery period. Her uterus hadn't fully healed yet. You know, besides, she had a C-section last time, so her uterus is already scarred. If it were just one fetus, we might have been able to continue the pregnancy with caution, scheduling more frequent checkups to monitor the condition of the uterus. But she's carrying twins now. At just 4 months, you can already see how big her belly is. Imagine how large her uterus will be by the time she gives birth. At that point, her uterus might not be able to handle it. It could rupture," Lu Jian's mother said firmly. "She's already pregnant. How can you think about an abortion? Those are 2 living lives. It would be a sin. Besides, you said it yourself. It's only a possibility, not a certainty. Let's just do as you suggested. and come to the hospital for regular checkups. If it really comes to the worst, we can still consider an abortion then. With that, she turned to persuade Xian Jiao, who had been keeping her head down, seemingly stunned. Don't worry, it's not that serious. When you raise a child, there's always a chance it'll be a boy. When that time comes, you'll be the hero of our Lu family. He gave Xian Jiao a thumbs up. Lu Jian will be devoted to you for the rest of his life. You can count on it. If he dares to bully you, your mom, and I will stand up for you. Just wait and enjoy the good life. Xian Jiao looked up at him, gritted her teeth, and was about to say something when Old interrupted. This expectant mother, you need to think carefully. Having an abortion now will have a smaller impact on your body. If you wait until you're 7 or 8 months along, not to mention the huge risks of abortion, if your uterus really ruptures, at best you won't die on the operating table, but you'll never be able to have children again. Xiao Xiao tugged at Old Yang's sleeve, and Old Yang seemed to remember something, finally falling silent, and just letting out a deep sigh. I know that most doctors are compassionate and always want what's best for their patients, but not all patients can understand your good intentions. The story of the farmer and the snake keeps playing out over and over, making the doctor-patient relationship increasingly tense these days. Seeing that Xian Jiao was wavering, Lu Jian's mother hurriedly continued to persuade her. You've already given birth to a pig this time. What else are you going to have? There's no need to have any more, so it won't have any impact at all. Listen to me. I'm telling you. Just listen to your mom. Would your mom ever harm you? Xian Jiao hesitantly raised her head. I knew she must be wavering inside. No one is unafraid of death. No matter how much you love your child, you still want to live yourself. Not to mention that all the doctors have repeatedly reminded her that this matter carries great risks. Even if he's a bit of a pampered spouse, he's not a complete fool. Right now, he just needs someone to stand firmly by his side, supporting his decision to come out. That way, if he ends up being blamed by Lu Jian's family, there will be someone to back him up, someone to share the blame. It's all your fault for advising me like that. I trusted you. If anyone else had said it, I wouldn't have believed them. If it weren't for you, how could I have ended up in this situation? I remember the words she screamed at me before pushing me down the stairs in my past life, and I gradually realized that I had fallen for her tricks back then in exactly the same way. Even if Lu Jian wasn't paying much attention, a couple's private matters could always be kept hidden if they really wanted to. Shen Jiao herself knew it was somewhat inappropriate, but she didn't want to anger Lu Jian over it. So, she would deliberately let me catch glimpses from time to time or quietly complain to me about her aches and pains. As someone who genuinely cared for her, I couldn't help but patiently advise her, only to end up becoming the scapegoat in the Lu family's eyes. She was clever, but she misjudged Lu Jian's feelings for her, and the Lu family's preference for sons over daughters, ultimately leading to her downfall. Yet, she still had one last outlet for her rage: me. Thinking of this, I stopped watching the scene unfold, retreated around the corner, and walked away, without looking back. Not long after, I received a message from Xiao Xiao. Teacher Jiang, Shen Jiao has been asking about you, wanting to hear your opinion. I've already told her none of you as can reach you. Thank you. In this lifetime, I'm determined to stay completely detached and watch from the sidelines. I want to see what kind of ending they'll meet. Since I plan to distance myself from Shen Jiao and the others, I've decided to sell my apartment. Not only do I want to make it harder for them to find me, but it's also because of the trauma from my past life. It was in this very apartment that Shen Jiao cornered me with a knife, forced me to the window, and pushed me down. Living here, I've often had nightmares of being pushed off a building. Changing my environment is the only way for me to truly start over. Coincidentally, during this time, a well-known school was built and began enrolling students nearby, causing property prices in the neighborhood to surge with high demand from buyers. As soon as I listed my apartment for sale, many people reached out, and it was sold within 2 days. With the proceeds, I bought a second-hand apartment in a more upscale, secure community. It was originally purchased by parents for their son's wedding, but he moved abroad after coming of age and never lived in it. The decor suited my taste perfectly. allowing me to move in right away. Selling, buying, and moving. It all took less than a week. Today, I brewed a cup of coffee in my new home and sat by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the sunset outside. The memories of Xinjiao and Lu Jian from my past life suddenly felt distant. Though it was a sunset, in my eyes, it shone like a sunrise. I had truly been reborn. When you're in a good mood, time seems to fly by. 2 more months passed, and the elderly woman who had undergone the obstructive dystocia surgery finally made a full recovery and returned to the hospital. Her family insisted on presenting me with a silk banner, and unable to refuse, I had to go to the hospital once again. Just as I was receiving praise from the leadership and compliments from those around me, someone suddenly grabbed my arm. The grip was forceful, their nails digging deep into my flesh. I winced in pain and turned to see Shen Jiao glaring at me with an intense, unyielding stare. When I saw his appearance, my eyes widened uncontrollably. I never expected him to have become like this, extremely thin, with only a thin layer of skin clinging to his bones, truly resembling a skeleton. Yet his belly was disproportionately large, making his arms and legs appear even more slender. Just standing there, he looked so fragile it was terrifying, as if he might collapse at any moment. Seeing me staring at him, tears began to fall from his eyes like strings of pearls. "Ayu, where have you been? I finally found you." Since there was a city television station conducting interviews that day, a large crowd had gathered. I didn't immediately shake off Shen Jiao's hand. His current appearance clearly marked him as the vulnerable one, and people instinctively sympathize with the vulnerable. I helped him over to a nearby chair, appearing attentive and considerate, but as soon as he sat down, I immediately straightened up and took 2 steps back, maintaining a safe distance. "Shen Jiao, what do you need from me?" He stared at me in surprise, as if caught off guard, yet my aloofness seemed to be something he had anticipated. "Ah, you. What's wrong with you? Why have you been avoiding me all this time? Do you know how difficult my life has been lately? You're my best friend. Why are you treating me like this? Did I do something to wrong you? I don't know, but it's okay. I'll kneel and apologize to you." "All right." As he spoke, he really began to tremble, supporting his belly as if preparing to kneel down. Seeing him like this, the onlookers began whispering and pointing. I quickly reached out to steady him, firmly pressing him back into his seat, deliberately raising my voice. "What are you doing? I already told you. My suspension is because of my own actions. I violated the hospital's rules and regulations. It was my own soft-heartedness that made me want to help you. It has nothing to do with you." "Stop." I cut him off. "I really have been busy lately, and I told you before that I went abroad, didn't I? But you moved without coming to the hospital, and you didn't answer my calls." As he spoke, he suddenly burst into tears. "Do you know how hard it's been for me these past few days? The doctor forced me to have an abortion. But this is my child. How could I bear to do that?" As soon as these words were spoken, the surrounding crowd erupted in an uproar, and the city's television stations turned their cameras toward us. I immediately explained. "How can you say that? You're a tending physician. If others hear this, it would be heartbreaking. He only suggested that your body isn't suitable for pregnancy. That's a diagnosis based on your physical condition. How can you say he forced you?" Shen Jiao glanced at old Yang, who was glaring at him angrily, and the surrounding crowd's expressions of sudden understanding. He hurriedly explained. "No, I know the doctor's diagnosis was normal. I meant that my family, Lu Jin's mother, insists I keep the baby, but the doctor says it's very dangerous." He grabbed both of my hands, looking at me pitifully and pleading. "I don't know what to do. You're a professional, and you're my friend. Tell me what to do." "Okay, whatever you say. I'll listen. I beg you." Someone in the crowd started to egg me on. "Dr. Jiang, you just received an award, so you must be an authority in gynecology. Just tell your friend, and put his mind at ease. Yeah, look at how thin he's become. It's pitiful. Sometimes patients just want a definitive answer to calm their nerves. You doctors are just afraid of taking responsibility, always speaking in vague terms." Xiao Xiao looked worried, and was about to step forward to speak for me, but I waved him off. "Xin Xiao, I'm not saying I can't tell you what to do, but that would be my choice, not yours. A doctor can only inform you of the specific situation and provide you with professional medical advice as much as possible. But this is your body, your child, your life. So, what to do can only be decided by you. And you alone. You are responsible for your own life. No one should or deserves to take that responsibility for you. Xiao Xiao immediately chimed in. If doctors just tell you what to do, what guarantee is there for your life? Other doctors also chimed in. You're an adult. Don't you know how to distinguish right from wrong? Can't you take responsibility for your own decisions? We looked at the people in the crowd who had been egging us on. They shrank back, not daring to say another word. Xin Jiao was taken aback for a moment, but quickly recovered, wiping away his tears. But you're my friend, he said, pouting in grievance. Can't I even ask my friend for advice? You can. I nodded, but your friend can also refuse. And now I'm telling you I refuse. In fact, I don't think I want to be friends with you anymore. The scene fell silent. Xin Jiao stared at me in shock as if he couldn't believe I would dare to say such a thing in public. I smiled indifferently. Since you want to use our friendship to pressure me, I'll just tell you straight, we're not friends anymore. This is much easier for people to accept than adopted patient relationship. After all, it's entirely a personal choice. No one can force me to be friends with Shun Jiao. Right. Sure enough, everyone quickly realized what was happening. But no one said anything. Not a single word of blame. Shun Jiao soon understood that he had just made a wrong move. He should have kept emphasizing my identity as a doctor. Only by resonating with those keyboard warriors in society could he have cornered me. But now people would only gossip about why I didn't want to be friends with him, and why I had said it so directly in front of so many people. Was there something wrong with him, or had he done something to wrong me? Just then, Shun Jiao suddenly stood up and pushed me hard when I wasn't paying attention. I hadn't expected someone so thin to have such strength. When I fell to the ground, a sharp pain shot through my tailbone. Xiao Jiao rushed over to help me up. Dr. Jiang, are you okay? I tried to move with his support, but couldn't. My tailbone was likely fractured. Shin Jiao showed no remorse at all. She pointed at my nose and yelled, You don't want to be friends with me? Well, I don't want to be friends with you either. If it weren't for me back then, you would have been isolated and bullied. Could you have become the great doctor you are now? You ungrateful, heartless dog. Let me tell you, I only befriended you back then to keep a loyal pet, and sure enough, you've been as obedient as I expected all these years. As she spoke, she burst into laughter, completely ignoring the stares around her. I stared back at her expressionlessly, not a single ripple of emotion in my heart, ever since she pushed me off the building in my past life, turning me into a pile of flesh. I had long realized that Shun Jiao only befriended me to get what she wanted from me. When we were young, it was an unconditional companion who validated her. As we grew older, it became various conveniences and financial support, and now, due to hormonal chaos from her pregnancy and the inner turmoil she had been enduring, she finally snapped. I told her in a very calm voice, I'm glad we've reached an agreement that we're not friends. After that, I couldn't be bothered to spare her another glance. I explained my condition to Xiao Xiao, who immediately arranged for a stretcher to take me for an X-ray. Xin Jiao was still hurling threats behind me. All these years, who else would bother with you besides me? Don't you dare regret this. Xiao Xiao actually found the time to retort. What do you mean? I'd be thrilled if Dr. Jiang paid more attention to me. At that moment, all the doctors gathered around me. I also love going shopping and eating with Jiang Yu the most. Research projects. Hey, how come you're sneaking around without me? Count me in. 2. Teachers, could you take us in turns along in the future? Looking at the kind gazes around me and listening to their laughter, my heart felt as if it had been soaked in a hot spring, bubbling with warmth. When you give, there will always be more people who return the same kindness to you. My tailbone was indeed fractured, and I had to stay in bed for at least 3 months. I hired a caregiver to look after me. Every day, all I did was eat and sleep, a rare period of leisure. In just 1 month, I gained 10 pounds, startling me so much I almost jumped out of bed to hit the gym for cardio. Just like that, Another month slipped by uneventfully. It was now June, and the weather was gradually getting hotter. My bones had healed quite a bit, and I could slowly support myself to walk with assistance, though I still couldn't stand for long. On a stormy night, my phone rang with an emergency call. I answered, and old Yang's frantic breathing came through the line. Xiao Jiang, Xian Jiao took a fall. Uterine rupture. Massive hemorrhage. It's somewhat similar to that case of obstructive dystocia we had before. The third hospital can't handle the surgery. They want to transfer her to us. You know, after that big scene she made back then. Maybe she felt too ashamed herself. So she switched to the third hospital for her prenatal checkups. Before old Yang could finish, I cut him off. Old Yang, have you forgotten? My tailbone is broken. He pushed me himself. A sound of someone slapping their thigh came from the other end of the line. Right. I actually forgot. Then I'll go turn them down. Without you here, the survival rate for a uterine repair surgery is too low. We can't make any promises. After hanging up, I looked out at the raging storm. But my heart was really calm. I stood up from my wheelchair and poured myself a glass of milk to help me sleep. With the hospital support braces, I might have been able to push through and perform the surgery. But why should I force myself? Why should I risk my own health to save his life? I'm no saint. I won't do something so foolish. I believe human life is above all else. And I respect life. But that doesn't mean I've forgiven him. In my past life, he murdered me. Yes, it was murder. He killed me once. The fact that I haven't retaliated with violence is already an act of kindness on my part. That night, I slept deeply. It wasn't until the caregiver came to open the bedroom curtains and sunlight fell on my face that I slowly woke up. I picked up my phone, and the first news notification was about a doctor-patient dispute at the third hospital the previous night. In the video, Lu Jian was grabbing the doctor by the collar, shouting at the camera, "You killed my wife! You killed my wife!" Lu Jian's mother was wailing beside him. My poor twin grandsons! My twin grandsons! The doctor struggled desperately. The survival rate for a uterine rupture with massive hemorrhage was already very low. I told you earlier, our hospital can't perform the surgery. The maternity hospital refused to take her, saying the only doctor who could do this surgery has a fractured tailbone and can't even stand. We did our best to stabilize her and buy time for a transfer to a higher-level hospital. But her condition deteriorated too quickly. Bullshit. It's your negligence that killed my wife. And my son, Lu Jian, suddenly threw a punch, hitting the doctor in the face. Why didn't you operate? Why didn't you operate? Pay me compensation. Pay me. Watching this, everything unfolded as expected. Lu Jian wasn't seeking justice for Xin Jiao at all. He just wanted to extort money from the hospital. In a corner of the video, not far from Lu Jian and the others, there was a bed sheet soaked crimson with blood. On it lay an emaciated woman, her hand hanging limply by the bedside, motionless. This was Xin Jiao's original fate. Less than half a day after the news of the doctor-patient dispute broke, the situation took a turn. The third hospital retrieved Xin Jiao's entire series of prenatal checkup reports from our hospital, along with the various medical orders they had issued for her later. All the evidence pointed to one conclusion. This was entirely the fault of the patient and her family. Jing Hao shared a room with Jing Hao during the postpartum period. Jing Hao got pregnant during the postpartum period. Jing Hao and other terms competed to top the trending searches, with the comment section filled with criticism directed at Xin Jiao. Although the deceased should be respected, she brought this upon herself. Couldn't she have taken some responsibility for herself? If she didn't cherish her own body, was her husband not angry? And did she have no brain of her own? Could giving birth really make someone so foolish? Has her brain grown mold? How desperate and insatiable must she have been? However, some people argue back. Such a short time after giving birth. Generally speaking, mothers are often forced into intimacy. Right. During the postpartum period, they have to take care of the baby and breastfeed. Who has the leisure and mood for that? So, the target of attack shifted to Lu Jian and his family. After doxing him, it was Lu Jian had shamelessly declared, "My wife. I'll sleep with her whenever I want," while Xian Jiao shyly added, "My husband just loves me too much." This sent netizens into a frenzy, with many saying the two were as perfectly matched as a turtle and a mung bean. At the same time, a new video surfaced online captured by onlookers when old Yang tried to reason with Xi and Jiao and Lu Jian's mother at the hospital that day. The battlefield of public opinion shifted to Lu Jian's mother, with netizens criticizing her for being so feudal and favoring sons over daughters in this day and age. Then, with the upload of the final video, the incident reached its climax. It turned out that Xi and Jiao's fall last night was because she accidentally witnessed Lu Jian with his mistress. And more importantly, the mistress was also visibly pregnant in the video. Xi and Jiao questioned Lu Jian, asking how he could treat her this way. But Lu Jian casually replied, "If you can't sleep with me, can I find someone else? Let me tell you, whoever gives birth to a son will be my rightful wife in the future." After saying this, he forcefully pushed Xi and Jiao away, causing her to lose her balance and fall heavily to the ground. Netizens began offline protests, with many filming videos outside Lu Jian's home, some vandalizing with red paint, others throwing eggs, just as netizens lamented the lack of substantial punishment for Lu Jian's family. An anonymous source suddenly revealed online that the mistress in the video was an HIV carrier. Now, the scumbag and the despicable woman have both received their due retribution. I turned off my phone and refocused on my thesis research, finally completely freeing myself from this family in my life. The dark clouds have dispersed, and light will eventually prevail. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you like this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.